At the time of his arrest, was he alone or with somebody else or anybody else?
He was with had just come into the prison, and he kind of was getting up in John's face, you know, kind of trying to, I don't know if he was trying to intimidate him or not, but just getting in his face. And then one of the other prisoners immediately came and got in between them. About the day or the day before, I would say the day before, he told me that he had had a premonition, but it did disturb him very much.
In this studio that I'm sitting in right now, I'm looking at around, and if I wanted to do the same thing, I could not pick up a spot to do it from. And I would imagine it'll be harder in a cell, prison cell. So did they actually tell you how that happened? Have you actually seen his body?
That he's somewhere, you know.
Welcome back everybody to Huobi X-Change. My name is Daiko, your host this evening, and tonight we are joined by a very special guest, Janice McAfee, the wife of the late and great John McAfee. Janice, welcome to the show.
Hi, Daiko. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming, and I wish we had met under better circumstances again since the last time we met on Crypto Tonight Show. Last time we met, we were having a ball. There was a lot of laughs, a lot of jokes. You, myself, John and Rob, and it was the most funniest interview I've ever conducted. And I don't know about you, but I've never laughed so much in my life during an interview. It was
No, it was a good time, actually, yeah.
Really good time. And I actually remember John coming out later after that and saying that was the best interview he's ever had. And that was like, to me, it was like, whoa. So, yeah. So we have, on a more serious note, more important things to discuss though. And that is the story of what has gone on over the last, more than a year now. And I would like to maybe begin with the last day which you saw was the last normal day before your world completely changed. So before everything turned upside down, what was the last normal day that you remember? Could you describe it to us?
Um, Before the arrest or before
Yeah,
John died?
before the arrest.
Before the arrest?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, wow. Well, I don't really remember what we did, in the day, but I remember, packing his backpack, something I did, made sure whatever he wanted to travel with was clean, first of all, because he never cared about whether his clothes were clean or not, which is so infuriating.
Such a
But
man, typical
anyways,
man.
yeah, so I had to, and I had learned by that time, how to pack it just so it's not too heavy, it's comfortable for him. So, I had done all of that, got all of his chargers and everything that he was going to need for his trip, and had laid out his clothes that he was going to wear to travel in. And we woke up pretty early, maybe about 3 or 4 in the morning, and he took a shower, got dressed, and we were watching Netflix. We actually watched a documentary on Nina Simone. That was the last thing we watched together. And
Okay.
and I walked him to the car, and we said our goodbyes, and that was that. And then I thought, a few hours later, well, not a few hours, it's actually so it's about maybe 7 in the morning when I said goodbye to him, and then about 4 p.m. ish was when I got the phone call of him being arrested.
Wow. So what exactly was going through your mind at that time when you got that phone call? Was it, did you think it was a joke, or were you shocked, or maybe a prank, or were you straight away, oh my God, like,
I was, oh my God,
yeah.
because we didn't talk about, there was no, okay, what if this happens, or in case this happens, do this, so there was no plan for, because that's kind of what we did, if something were to happen, reach out to this person, or contact this person, or go here, or do this, that's kind of, we would always kind of have plans in case things didn't go
Yeah.
as planned, if you will. And so, we didn't have that. So I was kind of reliant on the people that we were with, the friends that we were visiting at the time. And so, they were very helpful in, finding out where John was, and getting him an attorney, and just kind of helping to navigate those things that obviously I couldn't do, being that I'm not from Spain or the area. So they were able to help out a lot with that. And so I guess you could say I was freaked out. I was worried. I was very concerned. How did they find him? How did they know he was at the airport? How that went, how that happened. I didn't understand that, because from what I could tell, people didn't really know where we were. There was a lot of speculation, but there wasn't any concrete, where anyone could say definitely we know that he's here. So yeah, I was very concerned initially.
So for the people who don't know, what was the actual reason they arrested John in the first place?
They said that his passport had been reported stolen. And so that's why they initially detained him. And then once they had him detained, that's when we found out about the international warrant that had been.
I was going to say that didn't make sense, because if you lose your passport, I don't think you'd get arrested.
Yeah, no, it's very strange, but that's what he said. Why they detained him? That his passport was flagged as stolen, and that's why he was detained.
So then the real reason was there was an international arrest warrant, as you just mentioned. So they used that.
I don't know if that was something that maybe they just used the passport as a means to get him detained, and then all of a sudden this warrant,
That's what it sounds
was
like, yeah.
materialized to, because obviously we had traveled before. We had just recently, we had traveled to Germany, and there was no issue with his passport. He was traveling under the same passport, his British passport, because he had dual citizenship, and there was no problem with it at that time. And so I think it was honestly just a way for them to get him detained.
Wow. So, again, for the people who aren't aware, what was the reason for the international arrest warrant? Their reason.
So their reason was the tax related charges. They had said tax fraud, and I think tax fraud is the main charge that I can think of. I don't know if it was something more, but at the time it was only tax related, right? And so and the other warrant, the other SEC charges didn't come until months later. So I think again that was just another way to ensure that he was going to get deported, because once they added on those other charges, that's a lot more serious than not paying your taxes, for X amount of time or whatever. And it's not very serious. Even what they were alleging that he owed and all of that would have amounted to a fine, a slap on the wrist, if that. It wasn't very serious charges, that tax related things. So I think that's where these SEC charges came in, just to ensure that they could definitely keep him in their grasp, I guess.
Pardon my inquisitiveness, but I used to be a qualified private investigator, so pardon my inquisitiveness. But if someone conducted tax fraud, I don't think they'd be going around publicly showing their faces, putting photos up of themselves on the internet, and attending interviews if they're hiding from tax fraud. I mean, I don't know whether it's a laugh or cry about this, but their reasoning does not make sense from someone.
No, it doesn't. Not at all.
So.
Not at all. And sorry, something just fell outside my window. Okay, but so the charges were, honestly, they were just trumped up charges, honestly, because you have to file taxes. You have to file a tax return for there to be fraud. You have to have lied or intentionally hidden some information. And that never happened. He just didn't file taxes. He didn't make it a secret. He was living in Belize before he was deported back from Guatemala. And so once he came back to America, he no longer paid taxes. He'd never pay taxes. And he also informed the IRS every year by sending them a letter saying, I'm not going to be paying my taxes because I think they're unconstitutional, this and so. And so he never had a problem. There was never an issue. They would have been well within their rights to come and garnish his wages or garnish money from his bank accounts. I believe they have that power,
and they didn't
to take property, to take his cars, anything. Yeah, but they never did that. They never came to any of our homes, which it wasn't secret where we were. We were in Tennessee for a number of years, and they never came to our home to serve him with anything, to question him about anything.
So that wasn't the real reason.
We're coming to repossess this. We're taking this property from you as payment for these taxes. That they never did any of that. And also I was just under the impression that maybe it was just a way to, I don't know, just a way to get him, to kind of get him into custody.
Sounds like it sounds like there was another agenda, because if what you say is true, which I do believe you, if he actually owed tax, why didn't they garnish his wages, take some property away? They would have done that first before issuing an arrest warrant. So it sounds like that was just a mask.
He was conducting business very publicly. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just want people to know that he was conducting business very publicly. He had companies. One of his biggest projects he was working on publicly was MGT for a bit.
Yes.
And so if they wanted something, right, which actually the situation that happened with that, John kind of felt like it was a targeted situation as well with that company, and why they ended up losing so much money at the end there. But I won't get into that because I'm not an authority. I can't really speak to that. I can just speak to what John shared with me. But I'm just only saying that to say, he was not hiding what he was doing. It wasn't a secret what he was doing. And so it's just very strange that they waited and tried to do all of this secretly, which is very strange. He's very open about it, and so it's like, okay, if you are the IRS, if you wanted to, you can make his life very miserable. And so why not just if you feel like he owed you money, why not just come and say that? Why acknowledge the letters that he sent to you, but not come after him at that time if it was that important to you?
It sounds like their reasoning was just a cover-up to something else, to a different agenda. That's what it sounds like.
It definitely seems that way, yeah.
Because they did not
appears that way.
Yeah, they didn't follow the proper protocols as you described just moments ago. That they skipped all these first steps, such as the garnishing wages, taking the property, and any other steps. They skipped all these steps and went straight to the extreme level, straight away. So something's very suspicious there. Something's very, very fishy. And you don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand that. So now moving along, what happened after you received the phone call? So what was next? Could you describe to us the next steps, next action taken?
So the next steps was just trying to find out where he was and where they were going to take him to. I think he spent the night in the airport facility, I guess, or in their jail. And then on the next day, which was Sunday, I believe, or maybe, I'm sorry, he was arrested on the 4th. I don't know. I don't remember if that was a Friday or a Saturday, but Sunday he was moved to the prison. So we were able to find out where he was. And it took a bit of time for me to be able to get a phone call from him, for him to be able to call so I could speak to him. But in the meantime, we were, I was told that I was able to send him clothes. And so to, prepare bags, some clothes that could be sent to him by friends we were staying with. And so I got him a bunch of clothes, warm clothes because it was kind of cold, at that time, blankets and shoes, everything that he would have needed.
Yeah.
And I wrote a note. I might have written a note for him, to kind of be shared with him. And so, there's just trying to find where he was and where he was going to be, what exactly the charges were, and just kind of get the ball rolling on how to move forward to fight to get him out. That was probably the biggest thing, trying to figure out how to get him out at least on bail. Or on house arrest. That was, something that we trying to push for as well.
So just to go back one step, I should have asked you this earlier, but at the time of his arrest, was he alone or with somebody else or anybody else?
He was with a friend. He was with a friend of ours that we traveled around Spain with. He kind of was our driver, I guess you could say, and he was traveling with them.
Yeah.
So he wasn't by himself, and that gentleman obviously was not arrested. But yeah.
Okay.
Was,
okay. So next, I want to ask you is the first time you spoke to John on the phone. How was he on the phone? Was he upset? Was he confident? How can you describe that conversation?
He was very happy.
Yeah.
He was just happy to hear from me. I was happy to hear from. No, not happy about his circumstances. Not happy about being in there, but just no, God no. Just happy to be able to speak to me. Yeah, he was.
What was his first words when you spoke to you?
And I don't remember, honestly. I think it was just, hi, oh my goodness, are you okay? I think he was a bit surprised that I was still here in Spain, where he left me. It was like, well, where would I go? I'm not going to leave you just because you're, you're in jail. Like, that's crazy. Of course I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna do what I can to help you. Like, who else do you have here? I mean, he obviously, he has friends here, throughout Europe, but they're not me.
Yeah, of
You know what
course.
I'm saying? And leaving was never even a thought that came to my mind, just like it's not now. I'm not gonna leave here without him.
Yes.
I'm not gonna leave here without doing everything that I can to get the information. Sorry to jump ahead, but this is, I've had people doing interviews ask me, why are you still here? Like, duh, why would I leave?
Yeah.
How could I leave? I don't have them. You can't just order a body to be delivered to you over the internet or over the phone, right? That seems a bit ludicrous, to think that I could be back in America and maybe my being here is not really ensuring that things move in a timely manner anyways, because they're not, but at least I'm here, at least I can say that I'm here and I'm actively trying to do something, as opposed to, just saying, oh, okay, I can go back to America and it'll get handled.
You're fighting the good fight. That's what you're doing. You're fighting. That's why you're still there. You're a
I don't
strong
know,
woman.
Darko. Sometimes I feel like this is such a fool's errand. And I think I was saying this to you before we got on. I feel like this is such a colossal waste of time and a colossal waste of money. But I don't know what else to do. And I'm just doing what I believe John would want me to do. I'm doing what I know he would have expected me to do, not to just say, oh, okay, this is what you say happened to him. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to take that and just go about my business now. No, I want to know what happened. I want all the information that legally I'm supposed to be entitled to. There's been a lot of information that they've withheld, and that's been the issue here since February. It took them until February to close their investigation, or to be ready to close their investigation. Mind you, the prison was the one that leaked that this was a suicide. Without, and I know I'm jumping far ahead, but I just, I'm sorry, it's
okay.
just on my mind, and it's
okay.
I want everybody to understand, what the issue is here. So from the time of his death until February, I was waiting to hear from them, to be able to, first of all, to see him, right? Because I, wasn't able to do that because of their ongoing investigations. I wasn't able to fully see him properly and just have a moment to, say my goodbyes, and the fact that, like I was saying, they leaked that it was a suicide, without the cause of death being confirmed by the autopsy report. And then once they decided in February that they wanted to close the investigation, they decided they didn't want to release all of the information in the autopsy report. So they basically were trying to give us an incompleted autopsy report, which essentially was just stating this is the result of the autopsy, not showing all of the data of how this information came about, like the pictures. I'm not sure exactly what goes all into an autopsy report, but the attorney said that it's not complete according to their standards, Spanish standards and law. It's an incomplete autopsy report. I believe they said it was only 4 pages, and so obviously, there should be more pictures, data, lab work, all of these things that just weren't included. And not only that, the police report from their investigation was just an absolute joke. There was no substantial information in there. There was no statements from the guards and all of the prisoners that were on camera coming and going from John's room, or on camera speaking to him in the hallway. You would think that these people would have been interviewed, would have been spoken to, and statements would have been collected from them, because this was the hours before he was found. And most importantly, his roommate, his cellmate, was the last person allegedly just to see him alive. And there's no statement from him. There was no statements about, kind of what transpired throughout the day, like what happened to, once he came from court, what happened, what was his, kind of actions that he took, or what took place with him throughout the day up until he was found. Normal things that you would just think would be included in police reports, you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And maybe that's just not how they do things, but from what it's been explained to me, that this is normal things that should have been included. This is just standard procedure. And so because of all of that, I can't just accept what they're telling me. I can't, not setting aside my own personal feelings about what I think might have happened, just because of the way that they handled this. It's very difficult for me to say, okay, I believe that what they're telling me is on the up and up, and they're sharing, all that, I need to know about the situation. I just can't believe that, just because of these things, and there's just been too much, where it's just, I don't know how to better express it, but so I'm just trying to do what I think John would have expected me to do, and try to fight and get these answers, irrespective of it being a fool's errand, and irrespective of whether or not I will get the information. At least I can say at the end of the day, I tried.
You tried, exactly. Yeah. And since we are on that topic now, are you aware or not aware if the cameras in front of his cell were operating at the time? Any mention of that in the report?
There was actually pictures from the still shots from the video feed.
Pictures, but not video.
Of they so they didn't give the video, but just still shots from there, just showing John either in the hallway or in his doorway, and people, kind of coming and going from his cell, or coming, kind of going by him, speaking to him. There's just it seemed like a lot of activity, at least over 10 people that
Really?
were, photographed throughout those. I don't know, I'm not even sure about the time frame, but there was, throughout the day, I guess, before he was found, there was a lot of activity happening
From other
in his
prisoners?
hallway. I don't know if that was normal, from other prisoners, from guards. I don't know if that was normal activity. There's no way, obviously there's no way to know that, but that was something that stood out to me a lot, just given the fact that there was no statements from these people, even no statement from the guards that found him, what, how they came to find him and all. There was nothing like that, and you would think those things would be included. There was just basically in the report, all there was just basically stating what happened when they found him, and the action they took to try to save him, and
Wow. So
and that was it. That was all that was in there.
let's take a few steps back, because I know you have more to say on that part of this story, but in between the arrest and the unfortunate tragic incident that occurred, what was it like during John's stay? How was his mental health throughout, and how was his attitude and feelings during his stay in the prison?
So, his mental health was pretty good. Let's say overall, it was pretty good. He had his good days and bad days. He was in a lot of pain physically because of the, they didn't really do much to kind of alleviate him having to go up and down stairs. His knees were bad, and he had a torn Achilles tendon that never healed properly from when we were in the Bahamas. And so walking for him was, it wasn't very, could be painful, especially having to go up and down stairs every day, throughout the day, multiple times, and he was actually staying on a second floor of,
Oh,
and so he's having to do that a lot. So he was physically in a lot of pain, but
mm,
I think overall he was good mentally, in good space. Um, he was a trooper, I guess you could say. I don't, I don't want to be naive and think that he was having a good time, or try to pretend like he was having a good time, because I'm sure he wasn't. But
mm,
from what I could hear from him, he wasn't overly stressed, and it's possible that he could have just been trying to hide that, to not worry me, so I wouldn't be overly concerned about him. But I think, you know, um, I had been with him long enough to know when he was trying to mask,
mm.
uh,
So he was
those
bit.
feelings, and so I don't feel like, I feel like he overall he was okay
So he was
overall.
optimistic, but is it safe to say that he was also confident that his stay in prison would be short term and he'd be let out sooner than later?
Um, that was, well, initially yes, but as time began to go on, you know, obviously it kind of, I won't say it was worried, but it kind of felt like maybe, um, it might take a little longer than
Mm,
what he anticipated, but he definitely never felt like he would be sent back to America. That never crossed his mind. He was
mm,
never concerned about that. He was never concerned about, spending the rest of his life in prison. I guess I could say it that way, because he would have to go back to America if that happened. But I don't think that was really a concern for him, just because of um, the what we were hearing from his attorneys. So at the time, we initially started with one Spanish attorney, and then we added, two American attorneys.
mm,
One who was handling the case, the Tennessee case, which was the tax-related case, and then another who was handling the New York, SEC case. And so what we were focused on at the time were the tax charges, and that attorney was very confident that, you know he could fight that. He could for sure fight it, and win. Very confident on that.
mm.
That the charges, what they were coming up with, was just, thin, very
Yeah, yeah.
thin case, if that. And with the New York case, that was a little more complicated, and the lawyer felt like maybe a deal would have to be made.
Mm,
Which, okay, again, so, but no one ever at any time felt that he would be spending the rest of his life in prison. And then once we got an additional Spanish attorney, um, I would say he felt more confident, a lot more confident,
yeah.
that things could go more favorable for him. Yeah, because this second attorney was more, he had more, experience with extraditions, especially to America. So
Mm.
he had a lot of experience with that, and so he was, very confident that he could, have things come out favorably for John.
Yeah. So, could you tell us what his treatment was like in prison? And could you maybe compare his treatment at the start of his stay up until his last days? Was there any difference in treatment, or do you have any stories to say? Or how was he in prison? How was he
Um,
treated? Was he treated with respect, or did he have issues in prison? Or
he was treated with respect from what he told me. He said that the prisoners kind of really looked out for him, because he was, older. He wasn't the oldest man, but he was, one of the few older gentlemen that were in the prison. And he was, obviously a foreigner, American. And he said that a lot of the guards and the prisoners were shocked that he was in there with them, because they had him in what we call general population. And so he wasn't like in a white collar crime area, or in an area where, you know kind of secluded, or, a celebrity area, if you will. He
mm,
wasn't. He was in general population with all of the other prisoners. Right? There was
wow,
no special treatment as far as that goes. But but he said the prisoners looked out for him, kind of looked after him,
Oh, that's
the
good.
guards as well. Initially, he said some of the guards would come from another part of the prison and just to come in and say hi to him or ask him for an autograph. And
Oh, really?
in his belongings, I found a book from the librarian. It was a Spanish to English or English to Spanish dictionary. And there was a note in there from the librarian and said, for Mr. McAfee, and, just a really nice note. And so he was, John, you've spoken to him, so you know how he is, and he's, very easy for him to make friends. And so that wasn't an issue. They even were calling him Papa America. He said that was his nickname that they had dubbed him with. And funny stories, or just stories, I guess.
Yeah.
He said one day one of the prisoners had gotten some mail from his girlfriend or wife or whoever, and she put some underwear in there. And so I don't know if you saw pictures of John. He was going around wearing underwear masks during COVID. So
Yeah.
so he said he took the underwear and he put them on his face, and everyone just laughed. They just thought that was so funny, because obviously they would have never seen something like that.
Of course.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so they all just thought that was hilarious. Other than that, I think he told me about, there was one issue with another prisoner who had just come into the prison, and he kind of was getting up in John's face, kind of trying to, I don't know if he was trying to intimidate him or not, but just getting in his face. And then one of the other prisoners immediately came and got in between them and basically told the guy to back off. And that was that. So he didn't have any other issues after that. But no fights. No, he never said he got into any fight or anybody trying to, come after him in that way.
It's interesting you say these things, because even in a place of darkness such as prison, he still brought smiles and laughs to people's faces. That's the kind of person he was.
Yeah.
And not only in prison, but even on Twitter, there was so many people, over 1 million people from what I remember. He used to touch people's lives, people who he never met and they never met him, just through Twitter posts. Even I can speak for this. I would have a bad day, jump on Twitter, see John posting something. I'll be like, this guy just made me laugh all day. I had the worst day today, and I just saw John's tweet, and he just put a smile on my face. And I didn't even know the guy. Like, he had that effect on people.
Yeah.
Very charismatic person.
Yeah, he did.
So now, next,
and he had a love for people. He really loved people.
Yeah. Yeah, true. So now I want to talk a little bit about the final days, unfortunately. So, did you have any suspicions that something might be wrong, or any feelings, like gut feelings, or was everything just normal day to day, normal as could be for that period? Could you tell us a little bit the last few days? Like, did you have any concerns, suspicions, or maybe none at all?
There, no concerns. We just, we were, I guess I could say I was a bit anxious because he was getting ready to go to court, and, the decision was going to come down. So I was a bit anxious, and I guess, I don't know that he was. I don't think I could tell that about him, but we were obviously prepared for the decision to be, that they would grant the extradition, obviously, because, I don't know. We just expected that to be what it was going to be. In an appeal, we would have a better opportunity to argue why that shouldn't be the case. And so the only thing that I could say about the day or the day before, I would say the day before, he told me that he had a premonition, and it bothered him.
Yeah.
It bothered him very much. And he didn't want to talk about it, though. But but it did disturb him very much. And so, I asked him, if he wanted to talk about it, and he said no. And then, he kind of just left it at that. And so, we continued on with our conversation, but, obviously by their nature, premonitions are not good. So, and he didn't want to share it with me, but it did bother him a lot.
Could you tell us a bit
so
about that?
Fast forward to the.
Like, how did it bother him? Like, what did he actually say? Like, was his tone of voice different when he said it? Or was he talking normally and he was just really bothered by it? Or?
Well, no, he said he had woken up. He was asleep and he had woken up and, he had just, when we spoke, he, said he had just woken up from, laying down or whatever, and he had a premonition. And he was just kind of saying, whoa, mama. That's kind of how he would talk, when something was, kind of bad. That's just the language he would use. But it was the way that he said it. And I said, well, do you want to talk about it? You want to share? He was like, no, I don't want to talk about it. And he just, I don't know. He didn't want to get into it, but I could tell that it bothered him. Whatever the premonition was, it bothered him. So,
and
and then fast forward to the day, when when I get the news, obviously that comes back to my mind, like, oh my God, like, what was this, premonition? And
wow.
Okay. No, you were saying, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
We'll get to that very, very shortly, but I just want to also ask you firstly, how was John's treatment with the court hearings? Do you think the hearings were fair and traditional, proper, or were they a bit sketchy and sus in your eyes? Do you think it was like rigged, in other words, or was it fair as could be for that kind of system? Or if it's something you can't comment on, then don't comment.
Yeah, no, okay. I don't know if you can hear me, you're freezing up a little bit, but
Yep.
So I would say that he so there was supposed to be a translator in the court to translate things as they're happening so that he could understand what was happening in the court, at the time, and that didn't happen.
What?
And I guess outside from that, I guess everything went normal as it should have, but just to be in the court and not, he spoke Spanish, but not fluently, just enough to get by, and certainly not enough to understand what court procedures, what's being said, what's happening in the court, so, and they were supposed to provide a translator for him for that, but they didn't do that. So that was, obviously concerning and problematic. And but I guess everything else went according to plan.
Was there a reason why?
It wasn't a public court session.
Yeah, was there a reason why they didn't give him translators? Like, did his lawyers contest that at all? Like,
I believe it was mentioned, but honestly, I don't know how that would have worked. But it was definitely a concern that he brought up to the attorney, and so I don't know if it was an intentional thing that they just didn't provide. Mind you, this was still during COVID, and so maybe procedures were different. So that's I don't want to say that there was something sinister about that. Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't, but there obviously there was other circumstances that were happening, and so
strange.
it was a concern, obviously. Yeah, definitely.
Very strange. Now, when you got the news of the unfortunate incident, I believe you found out in a very unfair way. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I shall stand corrected. but I do believe you found out in an unfair way. So could you tell us a bit about that and how you actually found out the news and what happened next?
So I was just waiting for John to call me on our third call, because we spoke 3 times a day, in the morning, in the afternoon, and then in the evening. So I was waiting for the evening call. When I spoke to him in the afternoon, the last thing he said to me was, I'll call you later. I'll talk to you later. And so I was waiting for that call. I had, every day I would gather the daily headline from the U.S., interesting headlines from different news sites. So I had gathered, those headlines, because that was something we would talk about, just to kind of keep them up to date with what was happening in the world. So I was doing that, and then I went on Twitter, and I was went to check my messages. I don't even know why I was doing that. And as I was checking it, a message popped up and said, "Oh my God." And then so I opened it, it was from obviously someone I knew. And so I opened it, and it said, "Oh my God, tell me this isn't true." And I was like, wait, what the fuck? Sorry. But that's what was like, oh my gosh, what do you mean? What's not true? Like, what's not true? And so immediately I went on Google, and I saw the news that he was
wow. And nobody contacted
dead.
you?
And so
nobody contacted you from the prison?
No one contacted me from the prison. No one contacted his attorney from the prison. So his attorney found out the same way I found out, from Google, from the news.
Wow.
And what happened after that, I don't really remember. I remember calling my mom and just, really just breaking down, like, oh my gosh, And I just remember screaming, and then there was a bit of denial, like, this isn't true. This is bullshit. This is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the next few days were kind of a blur. I remember going to the prison to get his belongings, and speaking with the head of the prison. He was just saying, sorry for your loss, and how they enjoyed having John there. He was, a good prisoner, I guess. I guess that's the best way I could say it. They didn't have any problems from him.
Yeah.
He was, always smiling, always, in a good mood. Even just speaking about, that day, even they were sharing with me that day, there was no sign of
malice,
him being suicidal or being down or being any way affected or being affected negatively from the decision and from the court. And so that's something that stood out to me. There was some other information that they shared that stood out. I don't want to share that, but but just as far as, they shared a lot, that he didn't have any problems, any issues with, people, because obviously I asked that, did he have any, confrontations with any of the guards or any of the other prisoners, and they just said no. Everything was normal. He was his normal self. That they knew him to be, and so they were obviously in shock about it as well.
And they alleged that he hung himself, correct? Alleged.
Yeah.
So this is, pardon my ignorance, and if you can't comment, don't comment. because I totally understand if you can't comment on this, but in this studio that I'm sitting in right now, I'm looking at around, and if I wanted to do the same thing, I could not pick a spot to do it from, and I would imagine it'll be harder in a cell, prison cell. So did they actually tell you how that happened, or just that was it, that he hung himself? Because I can't process it, and if you can't comment, then don't. From what you know, was it possible?
So they didn't tell me how. They didn't tell me how. But what was expressed in the police report was that he was somehow he was found on the window. I guess there's the window in his cell and it had bars on it, and so he was somehow situated.
Okay.
On the window.
Strange.
And so obviously in the prison cells, there's no way for you to be, there's no way for anyone to actually hang themselves, or they're, lifted from the ground. They don't, the prison cells aren't set up in that way, and no prison cell is set up in that way for this very reason.
Yeah.
So he would have had to be very determined if this was something that he did himself,
And was his cellmate there at the time of the incident?
I don't know. I don't know that. See, that was not something that was included in the police report. So I don't know who. It's believed that his cellmate was the last one to see him alive, at least from the still shots from the security footage. He was, the last one seen pictured with John, and John was in his doorway, in the doorway of his cell, and they were there together. So he was the last one pictured. But there's no statement from that.
Wow. And now you continue to fight a battle till today, and that is with the deportation of his body. So, have you actually seen his body? I know it's a personal question, but it's a question I have to ask. Did you actually see him after the news broke out?
I got to see his face, his head. Because they were still working on him. So his, from what they said, his chest was still open. So I wasn't allowed to see him. And so he was wrapped up from his neck down. He wasn't able to see him fully. And
that would have been very traumatic and emotional, I can imagine. The reason why I asked this question as well is because after the news came out and I heard about the incident, I was in shock, but then I was also thinking to myself, could this be another one of John's super stunts? That's what I was hoping for as well. Like, maybe this is just something that he got let out and is, a big, funny news story that starts off tragic but ends up as a joke. And that's what I was trying to convince myself. And that's why I thought I'd ask you, like, did you actually see him? Because till this day, it's like I'm still telling myself, nah, he's still alive. Like, it's John.
Alive somewhere,
Yeah.
And that's understandable, definitely. Listen, I've gone through that myself. But I just feel like if that were true, there are just things that should have happened to confirm that in one way or the other, and those things haven't happened.
Yeah.
And so I honestly don't think that he is alive. Obviously I want that more than anybody, for that to be true, that he's somewhere,
Yeah.
somewhere getting drunk and just living his best life, and that's obviously how I would have wanted this to be, you know. But I just don't think. I honestly just don't think so, you know. And I know people want to believe that. I know that that's what they want to believe, but there's just too much information that I know that just leads me to believe that that's not true.
Yeah. Yeah. So now you're.
But obviously, not being able to see him fully has been something that has troubled me, obviously a lot, because, you know, for one, just not having that closure, you know, and not being able to say, yeah, for sure, you know, because I've seen him, I saw all of him, so yeah, for sure. So obviously, I know people will speculate, and this probably doesn't help to quell that suspicion
Mm,
or curiosity to say, you know, he's
or hope.
alive somewhere.
Yeah.
I understand that, but I can only share with you what I believe happened, what I believe is the case, and so that's all that I can do.
Yeah. So now you're left with the final battle, and that is with the deportation of his body. So what's happening there? What exactly is the holdup? What are the reasons and excuses for not releasing him? And if there's anything you can't comment on, just say you can't
They're
comment.
saying, right, no, I understand. They're So the issue is that they don't want to release the full autopsy report, which is what we're trying to get. And if we can't get that, then obviously we want an independent autopsy.
Yeah.
And so what the information we're waiting for is the decision from the court on whether or not they're going to release the rest of the autopsy report.
Mm.
And they're just holding the body. They're just holding the body just to hold the body because they don't need the body. You know, there's nothing more that they need to do with his body. They've done everything that they need to do with it. And so I don't know why they're holding on to it. I can only speculate that maybe it's a way to, I don't know, honestly, Darko. I don't even want to speculate on what
Mm.
possible reason they might have to be holding the body, because it doesn't make any sense. They don't need the body. And if we were doing an independent autopsy, they wouldn't be the ones conducting it,
Mm.
right? And I think I saw in um, one of the stories where they actually got comment from representative from this agency saying, you know, they're keeping the body because they need to keep it to study, to make the study for the independent autopsy. But we wouldn't have you doing, the same people that did the autopsy who didn't want to release the full report of it are not going to be the same people that do the independent autopsy.
Mm.
That defeats the whole purpose of an independent autopsy. It's going to be independent from the people that, you know, initially did the autopsy report, you know.
Yeah.
And so I honestly, I don't know why they're continuing to hold the body, but what the decision we're waiting for from the courts is whether or not they're going to release the full autopsy report, which according to the attorney we're not asking for anything abnormal. We're just asking for them to what is their standard procedure here
Yeah.
in Spain. Yeah.
And I don't mean to speculate, but it's obvious they're hiding something. So have you been given a rough time frame of how long this might drag on for? Or not really?
So initially, no, I wasn't told, but it'll be another couple months before there will be a decision. So initially, I wasn't told that it could take up to 5 to 8 months to get a decision, which is absolutely retarded to me. I don't even understand that.
Yeah.
You know, something I've learned being here is that Spain, the Spanish judicial system, is notoriously known for being slow. And the particular court that's handling the decision of whether or not to release the autopsy report, the full autopsy report, is even more exceptionally slow. So we're dealing with the slowest of the slow, you know, extreme slowness to provide, you know, a decision on the situation. And so there's been a little movement because of the stories that have come out, you know, on the anniversary with the petition. There's been obviously some attention that was able to be brought to the situation, and there's been a little movement in the court, and hopefully with continued pressure, we can get an answer soon. Obviously, it would be in the next couple of months, but so yeah, that's what the holdup is. But there is no reason why they should be holding his body still.
Correct.
There's no reason for that.
Correct. And I will be leaving a link to the petition as well down beneath this video for you. So to everybody watching, please show your support and sign this petition. Help Janice and help John finally rest in peace. It's a respect thing for a human being. That's all it is. And to give Janice closure that she needs as well. So Janice, is there anything else you wish to add before we give this stream a wrap?
Just I want to thank everybody who has signed and shared the petition, and thank you for allowing me an opportunity to come and speak about this. And if there's anyone that's watching or listening that hasn't signed the petition, please take the time to read and sign it and share it, and just help me to kind of keep this story in the public eye. I know it's not fresh news, and people have short attention span.
Yeah.
I get that, but it is doing something. It is helping. And so if you could just help me to keep this in the public eye, that would be very appreciative. And thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to speak about me.
Anytime. You're always welcome back here anytime. You know how to contact me, and anytime my door is open to you. And for more updates and further information with regards to this story, please follow Janice on Twitter. I will also be leaving her Twitter handle down beneath this video as well, and you can hear the news first from her, keeping you up to date. So Janice, I thank you so much for coming back. Again, I wish it was under better circumstances compared to the last time we spoke, full of laughs and joy. And I hope to see you again with some positive news in the near future as well. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And to everybody watching, please subscribe and share this video to help spread awareness of Janice's story. And until next time, please be safe, be healthy, trade-wise, and as always, rock on.
Some people have suggested that it's not really me tweeting on my Twitter account since I'm in prison. Most of you know my voice. For those that do not, my humor, which is obscure, certainly must chew in through. In any case, it is actually me. But now the more important things, I love you all, and I miss being able to share videos and photos with you. It is impossible for America to extradite me. I do believe this. The documentation they have discovered about me, they simply pulls out of their ass. And the Spanish people and Spanish courts are not stupid. So do not worry. I may even get out on bail in a week or two. And if not, I will eventually be freed here. I do miss you all and wish I could share fully with you. I love you. Keep up the fight against the madness and cancer that's been invading America. Goodbye, my friends.
All right. Good evening again, ladies and gentlemen, Mixology 101. Today we're going to be making the Papyrus Irish Smash. Now, it's a very simple thing to make, even for the Irish, of which I am one. And while I'm making this drink, I'm not going to be explaining much, but I would love to talk about the end of fucking quarantine, which is, it's happened to us. It's an extraordinary event. And if you have not experienced it yet, you will soon. It is coming to a theater near you. Now, the oddest thing about the end of quarantine is that fucking some are celebrating like fuck yes, virtually dancing in the street, but I mean, you can count those people on the fingers of one hand in most large cities. The majority of the people that are out are the brave, the mother and father or something, leaving the kids at home, but coming out to make a show for the neighbors. Yes, we must be strong. We must face this danger. But unfortunately, the majority, and that's, I don't know, more than what you can count on the fingers of one hand. But the majority of people didn't fucking show up at all. They just didn't show up for the celebration, and are still oddly like. You'll see this very soon yourself, and one of the oddest of all experiences that I've had in my 70-some years of existence. And the Irish papaya smash. Oh my God, yes. Oh, you're gonna love this, people. How many minutes? A coffee and oyster martini, and what the fuck you've done with coronavirus. We'll start with both at the same time. So coronavirus, just watch what I'm doing as far as the coffee martini is concerned. Coronavirus, what the fuck have you done, people? What have you done? I mean, today, in the most locked down country in the world, which just fucking opened up, the elderly are just beginning to come out of their fucking houses. Why? They're living alone, most of them. They're living in a society which, you fucking people, has developed for over 500 goddamn years to make sure that the elderly are not constantly fucking reminded of their impending death. I'm 74. Whoa! If my death is not coming instantly or at the latest over the goddamn horizon, then what the fuck? No, it's coming. And yet we live knowing as elderly people, I'm 74, any goddamn moment we may fucking just fucking disappear. So now, put the oyster in the coffee. They just fucking disappear. Take a squeeze of lemon. And what has happened? The news every goddamn day says death is outside your goddamn door, you elderly people. We're coming to get you maybe now. Well, I'm very sorry, but vodka extraordinarily necessary for a coffee martini. Martini? Now, what in the flying fuck is wrong with you people that you're willing to sacrifice your grandmothers and grandfathers for what? Your own goddamn sense of security? Well, fuck you. I'm saying it right fucking now. Take a little lemon cube and make sure you squeeze the lemon in, and then get that lemon zest with the peel. So fuck you, yes, the coffee.